Francesca is the supply chain sustainability lead at McLaren Construction, bringing a strong background in sustainability management and practical experience in delivering low-carbon initiatives. She's dedicated to embedding responsible, resilient, and sustainable practices across the supply chain, ensuring that suppliers align with McLaren's high standards for innovation and sustainability. Through her work, Francesca supports the company's wider goals whilst driving meaningful change across the industry.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. So I'll keep this quite short because I appreciate timing and everybody's introduced the topic extremely well. So I'll try to give you sort of my approach, our approach that we're doing in McLaren now that differs. So in terms of climate change, it has emerged obviously as a central factor in shaping environmental, social and governance, which is what we call ESG. As global awareness of climate risk intensifies, investors are actually looking at ways of diversifying their supply chain, decarbonizing, and improving all of our outputs. It is sort of working, and we are seeing that work. If you look at ESG funds, they've actually grown in the past 10 years impressively and dramatically. There has been a 119% actual increase to ESG funds, and that's $27 trillion that have actually been input into the industry. So it's not all dark. There is some hope at the end of the tunnel, and we are seeing actually organizations taking a bit more of a stand. But then when we look at some of the climate crisis and how it's actually shaping what's going on around our countries, we get some really clear examples. So we get Chile, for example. They've really struggled with water scarcity, and that's been going on for decades. So 2021 was actually the worst year they've faced. So what happened with the government there? They had to take a stance. They had to make a change, and that impacted the whole of the ESG, obviously, area. So when we're talking about environmental, water scarcity actually forced companies, especially in agricultural, mining or beverages, to look at water-saving activities and how could they sort of improve on their services. Then we looked at governments, where the Chilean government actually introduced ratios, and scarcity across the entire country was actually sort of reassessed, looking at rights and regulations for the population. And socially, companies were put under pressure for use of fair water, and that meant that the usage was actually way improved compared to what they have begun with. So then we have actually more examples from, example, India, that has imposed limits on coal-fired power plants near urban centers due to air pollution and obviously climate crisis. And then we get the European Union with CBAM, the carbon border adjustment, that's actually looking at bringing taxes on imports. So just to make this short, I'll go down to what is that is different and what I think should be sort of the way that we lead on. So if we're looking at Scope 3 emissions, which, as we all should be aware of by now, are actually the biggest emissions. As our Scope 1 and 2, electricity and fuel that we use are quite manageable, but our Scope 3 keeps on getting bigger for some reason every year. We have extreme weather events that impact our supply chain in drastic ways. So if you see the example what happened in Dubai in 2024, you might have all seen it in the news, where they had the equivalent of 2 years of rain in one day. So that had major repercussions. The Dubai airport was shut down, and that's one of the busiest one in the world. That costed absolute millions. And then we look at what happened to the distribution centers. How did people get their water, their medicines? Everything was delayed because of climate change, and that had a really direct impact on business. So what is it that we can do? If I were to ask you right now whether you knew 100% geographically where all of your suppliers were, I am confident that you wouldn't be able to answer. And that is because we live in a hyper-globalized world. It's cheaper to actually get your products from America or Asia sometimes than your neighboring country. And that is because we are fixated on buying more. The production is obviously cheaper in other countries compared to yours, but that doesn't help climate change. So I personally believe that we should be shifting sustainability and the way that we work as professionals. So instead of just looking at putting new regulations or embedding new ways of working, we should actually be focusing on our supply chain resilience. Where are we getting our products from? How are we getting our products from? And are we managing those risks of geographical locations? Can we get that better? Can we sort of foster better collaboration for a better future? And that's all for me. Thank you very much.